Hello and welcome to A Tactical History of Liverpool. We meet back up with the Reds in October 1971 as they prepare for the second round of the Cup Winners' Cup. Liverpool, of course, were not Cup winners, having lost the FA Cup final to Arsenal. However, as Arsenal also won the league, they qualified for the European Cup, seeing Liverpool take their spot in the less prestigious competition. In the first round, Liverpool defeated Swiss side Servette, winning 3-2 on aggregate to set up another meeting with Bayern Munich, just 7 months after they had met for the first time. After getting knocked out of the Intercity's Fairs Cup by Liverpool, Bayern went on to finish second behind Borussia Mönchengladbach in the Bundesliga. However, they emerged victorious in the German Cup final, defeating Cologne after extra time. The team saw 3 changes from the side that featured in episode 27, as Edgar Schneider, Franz Krauthausen and Wolfgang Zunholtz started, the latter 2 new signings from Rot-Weiss Oberhausen. Bill Shankly made 3 changes from the team we saw in episode 31. With Ian Ross, Brian Hall and Alan Evans replacing Alec Lindsay, Peter Thompson and John Toshak. Bayern started the game well. In episode 27 they had been completely overwhelmed by Liverpool's pressure, unable to pass out from the back. Liverpool were once again pressing, and they did win the ball back through this several times. However, generally Bayern dealt with it much better than they had previously. This was largely thanks to their quick passing, often playing the ball on with one touch, stopping Liverpool from being able to get near them before the ball was moved on. Gerd Müller was playing deep in midfield. This may seem strange as he's typically remembered as a simple poacher, but Bayern would often do this in difficult European away games, and later in the decade this would extend to some Bundesliga games too. Uli Hoeneß was also tasked with marking Kevin Keegan, which meant the 2 men you would expect to be leading the attack for Bayern were playing much deeper, with Krauthausen typically the furthest man forward. Despite this, Bayern did have some presence and attack in the early stages. Zunholtz and Schneider both cut inside into the middle, while Krauthausen and Franz Roth would push forward. Hoeneß would also desert his marking duties to venture forward into his more natural position. Even Herbert Koppenhofer popped up in the centre of attack at one point. With all these players linking up in the middle, Bayern found themselves able to work the ball forward. This ended after about 15 minutes though. Despite being the better team in the opening stages, Bayern seemed to give up on attacking, instead sitting back to defend. Hoeneß would no longer push forward, and Bayern's quick passing largely disappeared, replaced by long balls that Liverpool had no problems dealing with. Although Bayern had started well, they hadn't created any real chances. Once again, Ian Ross was having an excellent match against Bayern, calm both in defence and on the ball. While Tommy Smith was superb, confidently stepping up into midfield to claim the ball. Choosing to focus on defending, Bayern handed control of the match over to Liverpool. The Reds had been sloppy in possession early on, giving the ball away unforced. However, Bayern soon made it easy for them, and the match became about breaking down a defensive block. We weren't doing a particularly good job of it though. They were often hitting long balls towards the strikers, but didn't work nearly as well without Toshak. Neither Keegan nor Evans were tall enough to really be used as target men. As an alternative, Ray Clements would frequently kick the ball to Steve Highway instead, however that wasn't very effective either. Bayern's defenders watched Liverpool's attackers closely. Hoeneß marked Keegan, while Hans-Georg Schwarzenbeck stuck very tight to Evans, flagrantly fouling him pretty much any time the ball got near him. Paul Breitner was marking Highway, and when the Irishman began to switch across to the right flank 10 minutes into the match, he followed him across to the opposite wing. Brian Hall wasn't marked quite as closely, so was able to find some space to attack down the right, however his crossing was generally poor. Although any crosses that did get anywhere near the goal tended to be dealt with by Sepp Maier, either caught or punched away. The main threat to Bayern in the first half came from them sitting back, as Liverpool pounced on loose balls in the final third to shoot at goal. The second half continued largely as the first half had. Bayern began the half sending the ball long, although, with so many players in deep areas, giving them plenty of passing options, they soon began to play the ball shorter. This seemed to be mainly to keep hold of possession rather than to build attacks though, and when they did manage to get into the final third, they generally found that they had no one in the box to finish these attacks. Liverpool's pressure saw them win the ball back several times, and soon after Bayern began to simply pass the ball back to Maier whenever Liverpool were getting too close to them. For the most part, Bayern were just pulling their men back to defend their goal. Liverpool continued to struggle to break them down. Chris Lawler had begun to venture forward into Bayern territory in the first half, but it became very noticeable in the second. He was constantly pushing up into their half, and popped up in attack on more than one occasion. Aside from that, it was largely more of the same from Liverpool. Hall was substituted for Peter Thompson with 20 minutes to go. As Hall was more of a midfielder, it made sense in this instance to replace him with a proper winger to stretch play. However, Thompson didn't really have enough time to make a difference. It was a classic European away performance from Bayern, shutting up shop to go back to theirs unharmed. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to support the channel. You can get updates on what I'm doing by following on Twitter and Facebook, links are in the description, but most importantly by supporting Holding Midfield on Patreon. Without financial support, I can't justify the time it goes into making these videos to keep the channel alive while also receiving access to premium content. Thanks for watching.